When Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn were alive in the 1500s, their three closest ancestors were King Edward I, King Henry III, and Queen of England, Isabella of Angouleme. This was about 250 to 300 years before they were born, so starting with King Edward in the 1200s, they are seventh cousins once removed through him. Then with Henry III, his father, also in the 1200s, they are eighth cousins once removed through him. And finally, with Isabella of Angouleme, one more generation up, they're ninth cousins once removed through her. So it's all with three separate branches expanding and then converging. So Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn were distantly related to one another. In this video, I'm going to go through their family tree to see exactly how they can call themselves cousins. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Here on Mortal Faces, I untangle family trees and also see how individuals we read about might have looked in real life by recreating their portraits. I do have Henry VIII and Anne already on my channel. Check it out, links in the description. Subscribe for more trees and recreations, and let me know in the comments who you want to see in upcoming videos. Here's their family tree. We're going to start at the top with Isabella of Angouleme. You may not have heard of her before, but she was Queen of England at the dawn of the new century, the 1200s. Isabella was a French noblewoman and became a countess in her own right, as the only heir to her father. She was also a paternal grandchild of the French King Louis VI. At 12 or 14, she married King John of England, the son of Henry II and Eleanor of Aquitaine. Isabella was John's second wife and produced Henry III. But when King John died, she remarried to Hugh X of Lusignan, a count, and they produced Hugh XI. So Hugh XI and Henry III were actually half-brothers, and it's with these two brothers that we get Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII. You see, Henry III had Edward I and Edmund Crouchback. If you've seen my previous Richard III video, these are familiar names as they also created the antagonist king. However, Edward I had Edward II, and from there it's pretty simple. His line goes straight down to Henry VIII. Edward I's other child, though, was Joan of Acre, also another familiar name from my Richard III video. So I recommend you check that out because it'll kind of put everything together. Joan of Acre's second husband was Ralph de Montemar. You see, her first husband, who produced Richard's line, died, and so it's this guy, her second husband, Ralph, that we get Anne Boleyn's line. Joan had a storybook life, and this is a little tidbit about it. She was born the seventh of 14 children. Most of her older and younger siblings died early on except for her younger brother Edward and 4 sisters. After her first husband died, she caught the eye of Ralph, but he was only a squire in her father, the king's, household. It was unheard of that a princess would converse so closely with a man who had little status within the royal household, but she managed to persuade her father to knight him. Unknowing to him, the couple married afterwards. So when the king found out, he was furious and locked up Ralph. She pleaded to her father and eventually made the case that it's okay for a powerful earl to make a poor woman his wife, so why should there be anything wrong if a countess marries a young and promising man? She won over her father, Ralph was released, and eventually he even became respected by the king, who granted him 2 earldoms. As for Joan and her brother Edward, they kept a close relationship. It is said that after Edward became estranged from his father and lost his royal seal, Joan offered to lend him her seal. So 5 generations down, or about 130 years later, we'll get Anne Hangford in the 1400s. Anne Hangford was Boleyn's great-grandmother, and she married Thomas Butler, the 7th Earl Ormond. Fun fact, the family of the Earls of Ormond goes straight down to the Queen Mother. So Anne Boleyn is a separate branch from the Queen Mother's ancestry. From Thomas Butler, his maternal grandparents branched off. Thomas's grandfather, William Beauchamp, was the descendant of Hugh XI, the half-brother to the king. On the other hand, grandfather William married grandmother Joan, and it was Joan who is the descendant of Edmund Crouchback, her great-great-grandfather, and the son of the half-brother king. So Joan and William are related to Queen Isabella, one from one husband and the other from the next. Then their grandson is Thomas, who marries Anne, another descendant of Isabella. Then they have Lady Margaret, the mother of Thomas Boleyn, and then Anne Boleyn is born. So she marries Henry VIII, and these two distantly related cousins have Elizabeth I. And that's how Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn were related. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. You can check out Richard III's video along with the recreations of Henry and Anne, and even how all these ancestors created Queen Elizabeth II on her family tree video. Subscribe for more trees and recreations. Each of your subscriptions does help this channel grow. It allows me to continue making more content for you. Let me know in the comments who you want to see next. I do make a list of all your suggestions, and I will see you in the next one.